As promised, this is a graphic showing what you'll need for a Windows repair or replace of the Xbox One hard drive. You see you'll need a USB flash drive for OSU1, a SATA to USB adapter to be able to connect to your hard drive to your Windows PC, and a new formatted hard drive, either 500 gigabytes, 1 terabyte, or 2 terabytes in size. And it can be a regular hard disk, an SSD, or an SSHD. Okay guys, so in this video I'm going to show you how to repair or replace your Xbox One hard drive in either an X, an S, or an original Xbox One system. As you can see here, I have an original Xbox One system, but I will put links when those videos are complete of how you tear down this system, or if you have an X model or an S model. But actually formatting the drive is the same across all three model systems. So this is essentially now a system without a working hard drive that we need to make a working hard drive for. In this particular case, I'm going to use the drive I would suggest that you purchase if you're looking to upgrade your Xbox drive. And I recommend this drive because it's one of the best price to performance drives that you can get. And this is a Seagate FireCuda SSHD drive. It's a 2 terabyte, 2.5 inch SATA drive. And it runs for sub $100 from Amazon or Newegg or wherever you purchase drives from. Now, this is a process that I've been doing a lot over the years. And with this particular video being my latest version of actually repairing or replacing your Xbox One hard drive, I hope to have this, or this is the streamlined process that I've been using over the last few months that I think will be the most straightforward process for people to use. Now, aside from a replacement or new drive, or a drive that you're going to be repairing, you'll also need a USB flash drive with OSU1 copied to it. And now I have a video specifically about creating an OSU1 flash drive, and I'll link that here and in the description of this video. So let's get started here. Now, the first thing I'd like to mention is that when you have an Xbox One, so you could say I have all the connectors here. So when you have an Xbox One without a hard drive in it, when you turn it on, what you'll basically see on the no signal screen here is nothing. Nothing happens. So it's very often when people are trying to troubleshoot what's wrong with their Xbox One drive, they might mistaken the no video signal output as being something wrong with the HDMI port. So let me shut this off here. Now you can see this actually won't shut down on its own. I have to hold down the power button for 10 seconds. If your system isn't producing a video signal, the hard drive could be at fault here. It could be a bad HDMI port as well, but if you don't see any physical damage of your port, it may very well not be that. Now, some of the other issues that you'd see if there's something wrong with your hard drive is anything other than an E100 error. E100 is referring to the optical disk drive, which could be just you've somehow accidentally disconnected these connectors, or this drive, something's wrong with the firmware, in which case you have a bigger problem. But any other error other than E100, so E106 is common, E101, E102, I think E305, there's a bunch of them, E200 something. Any of those errors are likely something to do with your hard drive. Now, for this particular video, I'm going to be using this SATA to USB 3.0 adapter. Now, this simply connects into the drive, and then you hook this up to your Mac or PC hardware, and then either run Linux or Windows and my script to reformat the drive. Okay, so that's what we're going to do next. So let's switch to our desktop view here. Now, as per usual, I'll have all the downloads that you're going to need for this repair or replace process in the description of this video. You're going to want to download the latest OSU1.zip, or have a very recent backup of your system update partition, but it's likely if your drive failed that you won't have that. the other thing you'll want is my new Xbox One HDD master-7.zip download. And lastly, you'll want to download the boot animation files. Now, I'll have the links in the description, but just to show you, this is the file trip download where you can get a hold of the 7-zip file. And I also have the boot animations linked in the description. The larger of the two boot anim.dat files is for the Xbox One X. The smaller 32 megabyte version is for the Xbox One S and the OG models. Now, all the items I just mentioned are also on my Google Drive, which will also be linked in the description. This is the 7.zip, and then there's a boot anim folder where you can grab either the X startup screen or the OG and S startup screen. You can use them interchangeably on any system. So, for instance, you can use the Xbox One X animation on an S and an OG model. However, the next network upgrade that you do will put the appropriate boot animation back for your system. Now, the last thing that you want to download is the latest OSU 1. If you have or you're on a preview dashboard, you may have to wait a little bit longer than other people, since you have to make sure that the latest version of the OSU 1 is past your current preview dashboard version. But for most of us, the latest OSU1.zip is fine. So basically, you'd want to use this URL, which is linked in the description, and that will download this OSU1.zip here. Now, I have a video dedicated to creating an OSU1 or offline system update flash drive. And to do that, you would take an NTFS formatted USB flash drive, plug it into your system, as I'll do here. And generally, and I'll have a link for this in my description, I like to use 7-zip. So you open the archive and you can see there's the one folder you're going to want to put on your NTFS formatted flash drive. Now, for the Xbox One HDD master.7 script, again, right click it and we say open archive, and you're going to extract this directory, and generally I extract it to my desktop as I've done here. Now, you'd be tempted to open this folder and then go to the Win directory and just run this script. Here is the script you're actually going to use. But what I suggest is what I'm going to show you in this video, and that's opening the proper command prompt and or PowerShell first and then run the script. Okay, it's important that you do that. I do get comments in my videos often about different errors people are getting when they try to run the script, and I've never personally seen any of those errors because I use this method to I use the proper method to open the scripts every time. So what you're going to want to do is right click your start menu, and I'm running the latest version of Windows 10 here. So for instance, if I do WinVer, you'll see that I'm running Windows 10 1803 here. Okay, to open an administrative PowerShell, we're going to right click the start menu, select Windows PowerShell admin, say yes to do you want to allow this app to make changes to your device, and we're going to want to get to our desktop. Now, to do that, in PowerShell you want to do a cd $env user profile and enter on that, and it'll take you to the current user profile of your system, and then you'll just need to do a cd to your desktop, get backslash, and start typing Xbox. If you have more than one Xbox named directory, just keep hitting tab until you get to the one you're looking for, and then we want the Win directory in that, and hit enter. Now, for the command prompt, if we open an administrative command prompt, so if we right click a command prompt, I have this icon here, but we could also use a search, a Cortana search, and type CMD, bring up our command prompt, bring up our best match here. Right click it and say run as administrator, and again allow this app to make changes. Now from here we could do a CD, and instead of this environment bit, we do a % user profile % and hit enter, and that would also take us to our user profile directory. From here we'd want to do a CD desktop / Xbox One, again hit tab until you get to the right directory and do win and hit enter on that. And from here now we can run the create script, or we can run it again for PowerShell. So I'm going to switch back to PowerShell, so I want to run this from PowerShell instead. But just in case, if you prefer using the command prompt over PowerShell, that's how you get to the script in both cases. One thing I almost forgot is I would suggest before using this script or while using this script is to have another window open with disk management open. So it's disk mgmt.msc, and hit enter on that. This will give us some feedback as to what's going on with our drive. So as you can see here, if I blow this up a little bit, I still have our USB flash drive connected, which we don't need anymore because we have our OSU 1 update on it already. So we're just going to eject that really quick and unplug it. But what we don't see here, ignore my M&N drives, is the actual drive that we want to format and partition. So let's connect that up right now. And with this open, you'll be able to see the drive connecting in real time. And there you go. So you can see our 2 terabyte drive is actually not initialized. So this is a brand new drive. It's never been formatted in the past. So here we can actually see this as the script is running through. And we'll put everything like that. Okay, so there we go. Hit enter on our script. A few things that are important to note here is the language ID. So if you're having trouble with this script and your system's native language is not English by default, you may want to drop me a line with what language code has shown up in this window. The script will stop if it finds that if you don't have proper administrator privileges, because you cannot format a drive without the proper administrator privileges. And it also, again, will check to see if you have the English language installed. If you don't, there'll be instructions on how to basically add the US English language to allow the script to run properly. You don't need to change your system's default language. You just need to make sure the US English is installed for this script or while the script is running. Now the new added bit with the 7.0 script is the check to make sure all your drive letters are free. In this particular case, we only need to make sure that U, V, W, X, and Y, so basically U to Y, are available. It's okay if they aren't free. If you've already partitioned this drive in the past, it'll actually show up and it'll show you the proper labels for those drives. And this does mention a bit about how you can go into the script and change the drive letters it's looking to use. For most people, this should be fine. Most people have a C or a D, which is why I use the higher letters that you see here. Okay, so we're ready to go to the next step. Now, this is our menu system, which can be a little confusing, but once you understand what each option does, it will, of course, make it easier to use. In this particular case, we're likely only going to need the A option. And the A option is for replacing or upgrading without an original working drive. So in this case, our system doesn't have a drive, and we're trying to make a new 2 terabyte drive. And if I haven't said already, you can upgrade. So if you have a 500 gigabyte system or a 1 terabyte system and the drive failed and you're looking to replace it, you can simultaneously replace and upgrade at the same time, because your Xbox One is not tied to a particular size just because that's the drive size it shipped with. So if you bought a 500 gigabyte drive system and you want to build a new drive that is a 2 terabyte drive, you can do that. It's fine. You can upgrade directly to it because the drive size is attached to the drive and not the Xbox One system itself. Okay, so we're going to select the A option here. And then we want to select disk 3, as we can see here, which is going to be our Xbox One drive. You'll see here it does a quick check to see if this is the C drive. In this case, it's not. And it asks us if we want to continue because it's going to replace the drive. Now, this is where it would display any partitions on the drive that existed already. This is an empty drive, so we basically see what we see there. So we want to hit yes to continue. And here is where we can select any of our standard sizes. Any of these 3 options is fine to use. However, you need to at least have a physical drive that's at least as large as the option that you're selecting. Meaning that in order to select the 2 terabyte option, we have to have a 2 terabyte drive. If we physically have a 500 gigabyte drive, we cannot select the 2 terabyte option. That does seem to confuse a few people. They have an existing 500 gigabyte drive and they just want to upgrade to 2 terabyte and think they can just select the 2 terabyte menu option and then magically they'll get a 2 terabyte drive. It does not work that way. Okay, so we're going to select the C option here because we have a 2 terabyte drive. And we'll let the script work its magic. Now, I've sped this up a little bit in the interest of saving you guys some time, but this is the result that you're hoping to see, which is that we have all of our proper drives. There's no errors. It says it found system update partition. If you want to make sure the GUIDs were all set properly, you can go into the directory where the script itself is stored and look at the readme.windows. We'll shrink this down and we scroll down here a little bit, and there is a listing. I think it's near the end. Yep, it's the number 6 option in the README, which shows you the proper GUID values you should expect. They should all match. In this case, we're building a 2 terabyte drive, so you can see the disk ID matches. If we were building a 500 gigabyte drive or a 1 terabyte drive, then this first line would match appropriately one of these 2 guys here. Now, the other 5 partitions, the temp content, user content, system support, system update, they'll be the same regardless of the size of the drive. So regardless of whether you have a 500 gigabyte drive or a 1 terabyte drive or a 2 terabyte drive, these 5 partitions should match in any case. Okay, so the last thing to do here is press any key. This will put your default system language back for your command prompt, and you are done. And that's all there is to it in terms of building a new drive. If, as I pointed out, and you can just close those windows, by the way, just hit X on them. You don't actually want to format your drive because the script does it for you. Now, one other thing I like to do, aside from inspecting that these came out okay, and as I mentioned, if this doesn't match correctly, you may want to run the script a second time. Sometimes, for some reason, it doesn't take the first time. The other thing you might want to check is your disk management here, and you want to make sure that your drive basically looks like this. Again, your user content might be a different size. It should be 365 gigabytes if you have a 500 gigabyte drive, and it will be 781 gigabytes if you have a 1 terabyte drive. But looking at this, I see 5 partitions, and they all look named correctly, and everything seems fine. So at this point, we'll want to eject our drive and put it in our Xbox One system. Now, in the past, if anyone's familiar with some of my older videos, I would show you doing some or copying some of the OSU1 files onto the A and B folders of the system update or the 4th partition. I don't recommend doing that ever. Now, if you do happen to have a backup of your system update partition from another drive, you could copy those files here. I'm not going to cover that in this video. I'm just going to assume that this is for people who have had something go wrong with their existing Xbox One drive and they're looking to just get it repaired. So at this point, we're just going to eject our 2 terabyte drive. And with any luck, we'll get that safe to remove hardware message, and we will physically disconnect our drive. Now let me show you our camera view here. So we're going to disconnect our 2 terabyte drive, and we're going to install it in our Xbox One. Now we are going to have to put this drive back into our Windows system at some point. So I recommend that you leave everything apart for the most part, and you'll see what I mean or why you need to do that in the future. This is kind of a weird configuration, but normally you'd have all these things attached to the top case, or if you have an S or an X model, you'd have to get your drive reconnected and just make sure all your cables are rehooked up again. Okay, so with the 2 terabyte drive installed in your Xbox One system, we're going to start the system up. And we're greeted with an E106 error. That's okay, that's actually expected. Now what we're going to do is make sure you have a controller attached to your system or synced with your system. And we want to go into the troubleshoot menu. From this troubleshoot menu, we have a couple options here. Now, since your Xbox One system hard drive has failed, chances are it was left in a state where you had some profiles on your system and some games installed on your system. And at this point, in order for those things to work properly with the new drive, you need to remove any information about those things and re-add it. So this is why I don't do the AB folder thing anymore. And this is why your Xbox One drive is, at this point, blank. We didn't put any files on it. We just partitioned it, but there isn't any data on the drive. And that's going to come with the next step after we do the reset. So what we're going to want to do here is select the reset option, and we're going to say remove everything. Okay, now essentially your hard drive itself is already empty, so it won't be able to remove any of those contents. And in fact, because of this, it doesn't know what to do when you tell it to remove everything. But the point here is that we initiated the NAND to be wiped on the next startup. Okay, so at this point I would wait about 60 seconds. What's supposed to happen here is it's supposed to reboot on its own and reset the system. But again, because of the way our new drive is, it doesn't actually work, or it doesn't actually reset on its own. So I might go a little faster here, but I would suggest you wait about a full 60 seconds. After those 60 seconds, you want to hold down the power button for about 10 seconds or until your system powers down. Okay, so we wait till the system fully powers down like that, and then we're going to want to turn it on again. Okay, so you can see with that screen that it's actually resetting the NAND. Just reboot it again. Okay, and we're back to our E106 error. That's okay, because we're going to take our offline or our OSU1 flash drive and do an offline update. Okay, so before we plug this in, I want to show you what happens. We're going to get our controller on here. We're going to go into the troubleshoot menu, and you can see the offline system update option is grayed out. So we're going to plug in our OSU1 flash drive. And there we go. Now we can actually select the offline system update. And so that's the option we're going to use here. And we're going to just let this go. Now, if you follow the method that I use in this video here, you should be able to avoid problems where the update or the applying update stops at a certain percentage, such as 57%, somewhere in that range. And that's because we've forced a system reset before we did the offline update. That's a critical piece that I was missing in some of my prior videos, where I would try to do the offline update and then it would error in some way and then have you reset and try again. This way we just get the reset out of the way right away, and the offline update should take 100% of the time. All right, maybe I should say 99% of the time. That 1% being if you're using a preview dashboard or something similar, and the OSU1 update isn't new enough. Okay, so at this point we have a working system, and I'm going to go through the setup process that many of you are probably familiar with when you first set up your Xbox One. Just going to go through here. Networks connected. Shouldn't need an update because we have the latest OSU1. Okay, now I'm going to add my account, so I will pause the video and come back when my account's added to the system. Okay, so I've added my account. We're going to continue. And I usually leave the allow enhanced error reporting checked, but it's up to you if you want to uncheck it. I usually leave no barriers on. And I usually use instant sign-on on. Agrita Cortana. And then for me, Eastern time zone. Now, I like to use energy saving personally because why not? I don't use my Xbox 24/7, so there's no need to have it ready 24/7. I usually uncheck both of these things because I like to control when I do updates, particularly the console update. I want to make sure it's a time when I know the system, when I know it's safe for the system to do that update. You know, my kids aren't going to accidentally turn it off, anything like that. Okay, this is a new thing where I ask a bunch of questions. Usually just go through. You gotta say, I think you gotta at least look at all these things once, and then you can exit. Okay, so there you go. So your system's back up and running again. So I need to show you guys one more step. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna turn the console off. Get it to fully shut down. And we're going to do this last thing to our hard drive. After this, we can actually put our system back together. As I mentioned, I wanted you to leave your system so you could get to your hard drive again on purpose. And what we're going to do here is come over to our Windows desktop. and we plug in the drive, and you can see here's all of our partitions. Now you can see there's some data in temp content and system support and system update. We didn't install any games yet, so user content is still empty. But the system update partition is what we're going to want to concentrate on right now. So this is our actual X drive. And in here you can see we have our A and B folders, which again, if you watch some of my earlier videos, you might be familiar with that. But you can see only the A has anything because that's where the offline update went to, or the files that we basically installed from our USB went to. So I mentioned earlier, we can close our disk management, but you can see here's our disk 3. I mentioned earlier about downloading the boot anim files, and again, there's links in the description, but that can be done by either using any of my links here. So in this case, we're going to use the 32-bit version because we're dealing with an Xbox One OG model, although I guess for fun we could download the other one instead, which is the 60 megabyte option here. Anyways, we've already downloaded these and placed them in our desktop, so we want to go in this folder here, and I have them separated out. So we're going to grab the X. They are interchangeable, but this is a larger file. And we're going to copy this. And we're going to place this into our A folder because that is where our current system is looking to for the boot animation.dat. But it is also safe to place this in the B folder as well. Okay? So that's the last thing we should have to do to our drive before closing up our system. So what we're going to do here is try to safely eject the drive. And there we go. It's now safe to remove the drive. We'll unplug this and put it into our system. And at this point, you're safe to put your system back together again. I'm going to leave mine as it is here so you can see everything in action. Okay, now that we have the boot animation files in place, particularly the Xbox One X boot animation files in place, let's see if everything starts up okay. Okay, so there you go. So you can see there's the Xbox One X boot animation on an Xbox original console. And I just wanted to show you that in action. But that is basically the whole process of repairing a drive. That's taking a blank drive, reformatting it, partitioning it, doing an offline update, and getting the boot animation files back. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is something I haven't done in a while, which is actually repairing a system and showing a video on doing that. I feel like at this point I've gotten the process down to doing as few steps as possible to get your system up and running again. So I hope this helps you out, and stay tuned to my channel for many more videos in the future.